they lied to me, they gaslit me. Your lawyers are supposed to make you understand.
Listen, Mark Hunt he's lost so many lawsuits against us, it's insane.
What is the antitrust lawsuit?
Mine is an approved civil RICO case.
He's a bit of a delusional guy.
Most fighters have to sit with Dana White and say, can I have $1 out of $60? No, you'll get 50 cents. So where does the risk go?
He's gonna have to pay some legal fees.
So what's the end goal for you now?
The end goal is to make sure the future boys and girls go to fight, they get an even playing field. Equality. That's it. One word.
Someone should have talked to Mark immediately and soothed it out with him. But here's what I can tell Mark, if Mark is listening. They tested the shit out of Brock Lesnar, and they didn't know.
I was the UFC heavyweight of my game. In my mind and in my heart, I never lost to a foe. I lost and didn't like the way the chapter ended, and I kept flipping back. Listen, if there was any time for Brock Lesnar to come back.
Size, strength, speed, power. Tour for the title in his 4th pro fight. Heavyweight title. Lesnar has a second lease on life as an MMA fighter. Mark Hunt is the absolutely perfect welcome back party for
Like that, I'm knocking Brock Lesnar's face off.
heavyweight contender, a guy who has beaten some of the best fighters in the world, and a guy.
But it was huge. This is going to be a fight. And, you know, the better person will stand up.
Knock me out, I'm going to try to take him down. It's fighting, people.
So where we left off is you had issues with Kaepernick's former lawyer, and he wanted to bang on with you.
You want to punch on?
What a fuck, he's got balls, that bloke.
Bruh.
But are you surprised about what happened? Because, stereotypically, Jewish people are known for being, tight asses in a way, so...
Well, I don't want to stereotype anybody or any
I
race.
stereotype everyone, bro. Alright?
My alter ego does. My alter ego is really racist. But I, as a person, take everyone on face value and what it is.
Of course.
Like I said, I've never heard about that. Or, like I said,
Before
the Jewish thing, especially even like with the situation it is. But he left me at the altar with no fucking, nothing to do. And then from there, the Ninth Circuit said, we're going to make you a pro se litigant. Do you know what a pro se litigant is?
No, well, so assuming it's a lawyer or something, isn't it? Or...
So a pro se litigant is they make you the lawyer. I become the lawyer.
So you represent yourself.
Yeah.
So did you have to represent yourself at the appeal?
Well, yeah.
Yeah?
It's on public record. I did my own appeal. So they made me a pro se litigant. So what that does is it cuts all the red tape. You're talking about a person that lives in another continent. That's not a lawyer that has to fight this battle in their court system. I'm a pro se litigant. So that's the funny thing about it. So imagine a guy from a different part of the world trying to change statute or law, just trying to change the status quo. That my friend, is crazy. But what they actually did was when they made me a pro se litigant, it opened up it cut the red tape. And I said to my partner Flur, I said, man, apart from being here, I said, this motherfucking Jew left me here with nothing, at the table, at the altar. She goes, it's okay, babe, we can do it. I was like this, hey? But I didn't say, hey, I looked at her and I said, okay.
Did you need someone like that to give you that kind of confidence and support? Because I remember when I met you first, the way you used to talk, bro, was like, I don't know much. I just get punched in the head for a living.
There you go.
And you've changed completely since then, because
So,
I remember
that.
It was negative talk, always negative talk.
Well, that's because they lied to me. They gaslit me. The reason I didn't know much about my case, and when I spoke to you about it, or that time I didn't know anything about it, is because of them. Your lawyers are supposed to make you understand.
Make you feel comfortable.
But the reason why I didn't is because of my lawyers. They lied, they gaslit me. And that's what Flur explained to me. So when I asked her, the same question about a pro se litigant, she goes, they want you to be the lawyer, Mark. And I said to her, man, what the fuck are we going to do? Her first words out of her mouth were, we can do it, babe. And my after that, I said, okay, let's do it.
Is she a lawyer?
No.
She seems really, the brief time I spoke to her, she seems really switched on and knows a lot about what's going on.
Well, she's very smart. And the thing about Flur is she's got, I think, 4 or 5 degrees in everything else. But the funny thing about this, that's where the story gets crazy, is because when we started doing this case together, she had issues of being sick. A lot of things have happened. You know, they were sending guys to stalk. You know, and even a guy, you know, Colby Williams, who's a lawyer of the UFC, he even put in his filings that you know, for stalking and intimidation. You know, calling at work, sending people. I mean, I was driving back here to Sydney
to your missus' work.
Yeah, they were calling her work, seeing what she's going to think, because they thought she was a lawyer. So I had to, you know, I was driving back here to Sydney, see the kids and family, and she said, "Oh, Mark, there's this man been stalking us." So I turned the car around and went back to Melbourne to, you know, to make sure they're okay. Flur and Marlo, and I mean, the van disappeared, but it wasn't, you know, the van was looking for them, for her. But as soon as we involved those people, Colby Williams, into the RICO case, guess what happened? They stopped stalking her.
So you bring up RICO, but first, before then, what is the antitrust lawsuit? Because you mentioned it a few times.
The antitrust lawsuit.
In a few words.
Well, it's a different lawsuit to mine, and what a difference is, mine is a civil RICO, an approved civil RICO case. Okay, the antitrust lawsuit, it was about, they're trying to bring in the act of the Ali Act, which is Muhammad Ali, the boxing act, which gives the fighter half of the revenue. Right now, the UFC fighters get about 14%, I'd say, or 13% of the revenue.
Of the total revenue, yeah?
Yeah, that's pretty low.
For example, though, what does the NBA or NFL get?
Okay, around about 51.
About 51.
So the players get 51 of the total revenue share. It's sort of like 50-50, they're shared, instead of where the UFC fighters get 14%.
So is that why you see basketball contracts for $100 million?
There you go.
Yeah, okay, and then
right there. The difference with the prize fighter and their contract with the UFC fighters, especially in order to get a cut of that revenue share, they've got to get to the bout first, yeah? And then when they get to the bout, they've got to sit at a table like this, talking to a bald-headed guy named Dana White, saying, "Can I have $1, brother?"
So every single fighter has to sit across Dana and go through this?
Most fighters have to sit with Dana White and say, "Can I have $1, or can I have this, can I have this?" So that, you know, when they sell a pay-per-view, it's, what is it, $60, $70?
Yeah, something like that.
So, can I have $1 out of $60, $70? Think about it. No, you'll get 50 cents. So where does the risk go? So they'll get their appearance fee plus whatever they've negotiated with Dana White.
Okay, so what is the standard appearance fee that you've seen and heard of?
So I know starting fighters get like 20.
Okay, so that means...
So 20,000 to fight, 20,000 if you win.
Yep.
You remember they get taxed on that. So, you know, if you don't win, you get $20,000. Uncle Sam, wherever you fight, will take 30% of that tax. So, it's, you know, whatever's left after that, you got to pay a camp. And then the rest, you stick it in your ass.
So you got
live on.
Say you lose, so your appearance bonus is 20,000. Say 30% of that, which is probably what, if $2,000 is
whatever it is in the country you fight.
Okay.
If it's America, you get 30% straight away taken from you. The rest you pay. Like for Australia here, I fought in America. Uncle Sam takes his bit. I come here. I was paying 47 cents on the dollar, unless you run it through a company. You know, so you got to pay 20% tax over here. Over there, and 27% tax in your home. So you
get taxed twice.
Well,
yeah, and then plus you got to pay.
You get a credit.
Yep.
And then you get, you know, essentially, yeah. So I mean, you have to claim for fucking everything.
So who pays for the flights to say you're fighting in the US?
So the company pays for the flights.
Yep.
And I think 1 corner or 2 corner. That's it. Okay. Economy. If you're a top end fighter, and if you can negotiate a business seat, you get a business seat.
Okay, so they pay for your flights in economy. If you
accommodation, they pay for
medical tests and all that stuff, and
medical tests. They pay for your hotel accommodation. And they pay for I forgot the word, but they pay for weekly food. Okay,
so back to they pay for that. Then you, as a fighter, you'd win $20,000 for just, or not win, earn for turning up, right? Say you lost your fight. You got to pay your taxes. Then you've got to pay. What would a coach take?
It depends on who it is. Some top teams, like American top team, will take 10%.
10% on top of that. So you got 20,000. There's already $2,000 gone there. Then you got to pay for your camp.
Well, if you were with a reputable group, they'll take the percentage of it, and the rest, you know. So you know, you pay your camp, and then you have maybe a mortgage. You have living costs for your next fight. You're barely living. It's like paycheck to paycheck.
Yep. Okay.
If you're one of the lower guys.
So that's just like, so that 20 grand doesn't really go very far, does it? Because some people go, fuck, 20 grand, that's more I earn in, 6 months of work.
If you're lucky to be a fighter that's busy, you'll fight 3 times a year. So,
and of that 20 grand, you're probably walking away for yourself to spend on something 5 grand. Then you've got $15,000 in the year to cover all that. Yeah.
There's a lot of things. If you've got kids, I mean, they took away the sponsorships. There's a lot of things that you can call upon, which is unfair. That's why I've always said those contracts they have are slavery contracts.
So so going back to the antitrust lawsuit then. So for the UFC, you said they lost that. The UFC lost the antitrust lawsuit.
Well, to be honest, they didn't. They actually won that. To be honest, I mean, when they started this case about 12 years ago, Rob Macy and them started this case, and they said, it's $1.2 billion US. This is what this case is worth. So where did it go from $1.2 billion to $333 million?
Explain that. How does that work? 333 from 1.2 to 33.
You're looking at the grand total of fighters, 1,100 fighters, and what they earned.
Yeah, okay.
You're talking about a guy named Conor McGregor there, $200 million, $100 million. So all that $1.2 million, all the fighters throughout the 2010 to 2000, I think there's another class action, so 2017. That's that class action lawsuit. That's
a separate one.
That's the Kang Lee versus Zuffa. There's another one going, which is the next one. So you got to remember, it went from $1.2 billion to 333. Okay. So for me, I didn't like the antitrust lawsuit because my payout was one of the top, like $9 million US, but I ended up getting a couple $1 million, two point something, and I had to sell my lawsuit, and I lost about $1 million because the way they did it was they made a deal with the UFC lawyers. Instead of 1.2 billion, we'll pay you $333 million. Why? Because they needed money right now.
Okay, so it makes sense.
So they said to the fighters, we need you to start crying. We need money. So it went from $1.2 billion to $333 million. Why? Because the fighters said, and they only asked the initiating party, the 7 fighters that started this, or, Kang Lee and all these guys that started this lawsuit.
Okay, so just so people understand, the 1.2 billion was the value of the contract of the whole thing, but they reduced the 330 million as a payout, just to shut everyone up, and then that's what they reduced it to.
If you were the antitrust lawyers,
you're laughing on that.
You either go to trial, or something is better than nothing. That's what they say. So that something was that.
So that's what? That's a 25% of what the actual value is. Correct. Which is fucking ridiculous.
So for me, it's like their fighters. Like for me, that's another sellout.
It is.
And all I heard was, from Macy's mouth was, I had to get paid, Mark. I haven't been paid in 10 years. I haven't been paid in 20 years. Shut up.
So, what's the difference then between this antitrust lawsuit and your lawsuit that you've got going on, your personal one?
That's a antitrust. That's a class action.
Class action. Okay.
Mine's an approved RICO. That's
okay. So class action is a group of people, all the fighters or whatever got together, and you're an individual fighting against Zuffa and UFC. Yep. Okay.
Zuffa and Dana White et al.
Okay. And you told me that Zuffa had been essentially bought out by TKO, was it?
Well, yeah, they bought TKO. A guy named Mario Emanuel bought TKO. Made TKO and bought Zuffa.
Okay.
So they got all the liability. They got all these lawsuits.
So now it's just shuffled from Dana and Zuffa. Now they've essentially been brought into it. So you're fighting.
They bought a liability.
They bought into the and they
bought Zuffa,
they bought the debt essentially. Yeah.
So they bought the debt caused by Dana White.
Okay. So what's the end goal for you now?
Equality. The end goal is to make sure when I go to a fight, or the future boys and girls go to fight, not just in fighting, but in all contact sport, they get an even playing field. I said that before. I can explain it with one word: equality. That's it. One word. So,
with RICO, because you've mentioned it a few times, civil RICO, and you mentioned RICO. So, when I think of RICO, I think of the mobsters, all these gangster movies and things like that. So RICO, for people who don't understand, is just an abbreviation, I believe. Is that what you call it, abbreviation? So it's racketeer, including, is that what it is? I don't know. Influencing, that's right. So it's Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, right? So from what I know from all the movies and shows that I watch, is essentially gives the government an opportunity to target organized crime, and it's the ones that literally have their hands clean of everything, but they're giving orders, and they give the government the ability to go and essentially convict them and try and put them to trial.
It's like a group.
The higher, the whole from the higher up.
The guys up. You start with the bottom and crumble the whole entity. You know.
So you got to prove it's an organized, essentially
collusion.
a syndicate. Yeah.
Well, collusion is, and the reason mine's an approved civil RICO is because they're an international group, and the evidence I got is USADA, Dana White, INSAC, all of them in emails colluding together for one. Yeah, colluding together for one purpose. That's one purpose. All of them colluding for one purpose.
So racketeering, though, right? So racketeering charges. They say that, like, okay, so a few common ones: money laundering. So would you say it's anything to do with money laundering?
No idea.
No idea.
What with these?
What about bribery?
Well, they bribed my lawyers. They paid them off. Look at my lawyer, Christina.
Yep.
I don't have the proof. But, well, the thing is, when you look at it, all you need to look at what her actions are as a lawyer. Her actions are what she did.
But it goes back to that Brock Lesnar thing, you know.
Unequivocally, fortunately, the way she acted as a lawyer was supposed to be was totally corrupt.
Okay. Well, I don't think it'll be drug trafficking or murder for hire, but there's fraud,
Who knows?
extortion, and
Murder for hire. Who knows? You know.
Who knows?
We're still getting hot here.
I
Who
hope
knows?
it doesn't,
you know.
bro. I hope
probably
that
his squad sitting up my fucking door right now. Who knows?
Would you ever think, just so the world knows, would you ever consider suicide as an option?
Well, you know, when this, it's been hard. Like I said, when I came on Tuesday, it's been nearly a decade of this case, and it's been really hard mentally. I've been unstable. A lot of things have happened. You know, suicide. But like I said, I was forged as a kid to deal with these sort of things.
So no, it wouldn't be.
You know,
So if something,
I got anxiety as a kid dealing with a piece of shit father. I dealt with a lot of things as a kid. Now into my old age of 51, and you know, that's to deal with these things. And you know, suicide. Of course, there were suicide thoughts throughout the 10 years, without all these years. Of course, there was a lot of different things. But will I do that? I've got, you know, I love my kids more than I love myself, and I wouldn't do that to my family, because when you kill yourself, you leave those that have to deal with this fucking world.
Well, there we go, everyone. So you know that Mark will not go and commit suicide. So if there's an accident that occurs, we know where to go. But
well, you know,
we pray God nothing will ever happen.
All I said is we all are mortal. Yeah,
we are, yes.
We are mortal, and that's the
and when the big fella says, that's the time we have to do it.
That's the only time you guys, when the Lord says your time is up, my friend.
So back to the racketeering side of things, the charges, just so like people can get an understanding, because when racketeering is not usually a word that's thrown around day to day. You know, they think of crimes as, you know, robbery, bribery, fraud, theft, all that stuff, murder. But racketeer is essentially it's a whole conglomerate it's a group of crimes essentially.
It's what it is a group of individuals are colluding together for one purpose, and normally it's for making money. So you know.
So you believe so with this civil RICO case now, there's been a collusion of a syndicate for corruption, probably bribery and fraud as well.
Making money.
Yep, to make money.
I mean, I can call let me call Flur so you can understand. Let me just call her, and you can ask her yourself. Look at my fucking hair. Oh my days. I didn't have a shave or anything, but anyway. You can ask her yourself.
Yeah.
It's, she's probably, there she is. Hello. Hi. I got a friend who, actually I'm doing a podcast, and I got a friend who wants to speak to you. His name's Harry. Here you go, Harry.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, Flur.
Hi, Harry. Sorry about the noise. I'm in the shopping
No, we can't hear it. It's all quiet on our end, which is great. I just want to, I'll keep picking Mark's brain, but I'm not exactly sure where we go with this. We go for this civil RICO case. So how does the civil RICO come about, and then what's the end goal? Now, how does the UFC and Mark come under the same or similar banner as a crime family?
So there's several elements to a RICO case. I think statistically, the prosecutors only need around 2 of those elements to be met to prosecute someone for RICO. And as the years have gone by, we've seen precedent move towards a corporate RICO. As happens with all laws, they develop over time. And in this scenario, you're talking about if they only need 2 elements to proceed, and Mark's case had something like 5.
Which 5 were they? Do you know?
So I don't know if I'm conflating the wording here between legislation and other terminology, but it was for unjust enrichment, where they enrich themselves off the back of
Civil conspiracy.
some frauds and misrepresentations they made to Mark. There was collusion through, I think, around 5 operators, and that was proved. Everything I speak to has been proven in emails and text messages, affidavits, and whatnot. Another one was
Civil conspiracy.
so civil conspiracy, and
If you don't know, it's all right because we're just going through the list of like racketeer charges and things like that. There's a few different things. Yeah. So I just wanted to get an understanding of which ones they could have been and what they were. So, yeah.
Racketeering exists, but it requires all these other elements to get there. Thank you. So elements like the fraud and misrepresentation and collusion for a common purpose, all of those are, I guess, descriptions of what sits underneath RICO.
But hang on. Battery, the predicate act. You can speak of, yeah.
Okay, so battery was the predicate act, which is the first act that occurred to enable the charges to go ahead. So how did we get to the point that he was battered? So he was battered because he didn't agree to fight someone who's using PEDs. There wasn't a precedent for battery in sports law yet. Mark has set that precedent in his oral argument in November last year. The panel stipulated that is law now in Mark's Hunt versus Zuffa case. So from that point on, if the predicate act is proven, every other claim is then also proven. So when they worked together for a common purpose to enrich themselves, that's all part of RICO. Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing that I'd like to ask is, where does it go from now? Because I've read that there's a lot of dismissals been happening. Mark's been informing me off camera about a few things, and I'd just like to get your opinion on where we're at now after the most recent dismissal that I've read about. However, the wording stipulates it might not be as it seems.
That's right. So there's a Ninth Circuit YouTube station that you can watch, and what you'll notice is that they really focus on the language being used. And the reason for that is because it's really tied to what words they've chosen as to, it's not as it seems. So, for example, the latest one, it's not a dismissal. It says that they're rejecting the filing of the en banc petition. Now, if you look at orders, that's really unusual wording. That's not something that's usually spoken about in that way. They might say something's denied, something, you get really final wording, but this was just rejecting specifically the filing.
Yes, okay. So,
and then it used words.
Just before you go, so I just want people to understand that with this case, you've gone to a point where you've gone to, was it the Third Circuit or Ninth Circuit? Ninth Circuit, which is the 3 judges, is that correct? And after that, then the next thing is the Supreme Court, or it goes to in front of 11 en banc, which means like it's
11.
The 11 judges that they go to review it. Now, the only thing that's been rejected is the filing, and as we've noticed on 76.1, I believe, of the filing, it was it's only rejected because you don't need to file for it because it's already with the 11.
I'll elaborate there a bit because in that 76.1, where it says that they have voted on choosing to reject the filing of the en banc petition brief. So that means that it was already circulated to the en banc panel of 11, which means that they are currently assessing the petition brief.
So there's no need to file.
So we need to focus on the language, because whilst we haven't yet got something that says, it's with the en banc panel, we've been informed, it has been circulated.
Correct.
We've also spoken to a clerk who has confirmed the same. And so what we're looking at is 76.1, waiting to see whatever point to or whatever else there is attached to that.
Well-
And we were also informed by the clerk that there were orders currently being written. So we're really just, that's where it's at the moment. And if it wasn't an ideal outcome, there's still multiple steps available. One which is the Supreme Court review for writ. I think it's pronounced
Ferrari.
Ferrari, that one, or we can restart a district level where the mistakes were made prior to Mark being made pro se, and all of the evidence that was hidden in discovery by his former dodgy lawyer Christina Denning is now accepted, is being pointed to. The judges have said that indeed, in the memorandum of disposition in April, it said indeed the evidence does exist.
I saw that as well, which is fair go. I was surprised to see that. But now, just for the listeners and whatnot, once all said and done and you achieve the result that you want, right? And now I've heard in passing, some of the figures that have been thrown around, they seem astronomical. Like I've battled with myself to figure out how anyone's going to be able to pay that out.
Do you want me to explain it to him, babe?
Could I answer first, and then if you can add to it if you want? But because we can't speak for the other side.
Yep.
But what we can do is, make some fairly reasonable assumptions. And so ordinarily you would be able to use your insurance for that. However, the only way that TKO could use their insurance is with a mandate that finds them guilty, a UFC guilty and Zuffa guilty of what they did. The other part is that we did, there's some speculation as to why TKO have been trading off a lot of stock over the last year and a bit to create a credit line of 3.7 billion or something, I think it is now, and everyone's thinking, what are they going to do with that money when they're selling off resources they didn't know? We thought perhaps they're creating the piggy bank for when they need to start paying the damages, because they're financially liable at TKO, but it's the people who did the actions who will be criminally liable. So that's Dana et al.
Yep.
And then you've got they've got two new investors, which, the day after memorandum of disposition, all of a sudden we've had no comment from the other side, which is unusual. And we saw BlackRock and Vanguard being able to purchase 15% of the Class A TKO stock. So the reason why that might be relevant if you're trying to work out where someone gets that kind of money, these are $1 trillion investment firms. So that's a, automatic long-term credit line for Ari Emanuel to pay whatever crazy debt might be accrued from something like this, if he's going to maintain a clean company moving forward, get rid of that financial liability and allow the people who did what they did to take on the criminal. And I still think that that's a plausible scenario, especially now that steroid user, Dana's... I was going to say something bad then. What's the name of the black fighter who's always on steroids, babe?
John Jones.
Fucking John Jones.
John Jones.
He then has
Fucking John Jones. He's such a little bitch. He just retired. They said he retired. Man, get the fuck out of here, you fucking cheater.
But it's the first time he's said he's retired. And so, Dana was his bum boy and, his favourite person who loved to say, oh, John Jones for everything. So you got to take all of those details and analyse that with, an abstract view and ask yourself why those things might happen. And
because it's a civil case, do the government have to guarantee any kind of funds as well?
So that is an interesting question. So, the same way you've got the Victims of Crime Fund here, you've got something similar in the US where
Can you hold it close
if
to
it's
my arms
civil
getting
RICO, because that is a justice system prosecution for the criminal part, then yes, there would be some compensation that would need to be covered if those individuals can't pay.
Okay, so it's kind of covered on all angles with insurance with the company buying or selling shares and the government. And then you also have the criminal aspect, which I'll speak to Mark to
And the thing with, so with TKO, they must take care of the financial liability so that they are not classed as being in collusion with Dana and his cronies.
Well, the other clean companies get fucked over too.
Interesting. Well, Fleur, appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us today and share some insight on what's going on with everything. And I'll pass you back to Mark real quickly.
Okay, thank you for your insight, and as always, I'll talk to you later. All right, love you. Bye.
Love you.
Bye. Anyway, so that's Fleur. She is the one that helped change the whole narrative about where I'm going or what's happening. From the first time I saw you to the time now. From not knowing a single thing to knowing a lot about law and how RICO works.
That's interesting, man. Well, I wish you all the best with that. And as we discussed just with Fleur on the phone.
Sorry, my arm was getting sore.
That's all right. I thought you were a UFC fighter, bro. What is this, man?
Hey, far from a UFC fighter. But all the years I've been holding my hands up. So,
yeah, you should be perfect with that. You should be just sitting there.
I got fucking shit in both my elbows, so I got tennis elbows both sides.
Oh fuck!
And anyone that knows me, like you should know me.
Never even picked up a racket. True. But
guys are criminals, bro.
But looking back at your career, you finished the UFC when?
2018. Yeah.
And then after that, you moved forward with a bit of a boxing career.
Correct. I did boxing to make money. I was.
So okay.
I was blacklisted a few times trying to make an earn for a living. They blocked me a few times with different things.
I want to ask you that because you're the Super Samoan, right? A prize fighter, as you know, your whole life essentially.
Correct.
And you step in the ring with a rugby league footballer by the name of Paul Gallen.
Great football player.
Great footballer.
Captain
New South Wales. New South Wales captain. A hard man.
Hard man. Yeah.
I'm not a very big fan of him just because I follow the Broncos and stuff, and I think Cronulla is probably the opposite side of it. You know what I mean? But what happened there? Because
look, man, with the Gallen fight, they asked for the fight. I said, yeah, they offered me. I'm not going to say you offered me $3 million to take a dive. People said I'm lying. You'll take the dive. I said, well, I don't need to lie about anything. All I know is I'm not that type of person. And it's the first time I've been offered money to take a dive, first round knockout. So I wanted to know how it works, and it's all to do with gambling, to be honest. So that fight there was even though I thought I won the fight. I mean, he was the only person seeing Mars after the fight.
Yeah, you had him jelly legs. He was wandering around.
But I had fun. I had fun in that boxing fight.
But you didn't seem like the person you were like. Because I remember when I saw you before you went to camp. You went to camp in Newcastle. Yeah. And you told me you're going to lose like 40 kilos. You're going to be 110 kgs for the fight. You walked in at 137 or something.
I had issues. I was going through separation.
So is that what happened?
There's a lot of things going on.
A lot of people don't know that.
As a fighter, mentally, if you're not all in, don't fucking do it.
But that's my point. Like
that. You're a fighter too.
That's the thing that a lot of people don't know though. You went into the fight, you lost, and people are just like, you're a shit fighter. But no one knows
for me, that guy was on fucking. He was looking at Mars. He was on Mars.
I saw he was jelly. I was front row. I was like, I seen him doing these ones, man.
I give credit where it's due. He won the fight. He outscored me. He won the fight.
Yep.
But his brain wasn't there after the fight.
Yeah.
For sure. At the end of the day, like I said, and that's not an excuse. He worked more, and that's it. So give him the fight. You won the fight. Okay, cool. But I still rang your bell.
Yeah. And then you went and you rang someone else's bell.
Okay.
Not long after, which was Sonny Bill Williams, and they're going to actually have a fight coming up soon.
Well, same thing with both. I was on the couch with the Sonny Bill eating cheesecake, and like I said, I learned when I made that deal, that fight. I went away and lost weight. When I made that fight, you don't never make a deal with a Muslim unless you're a Muslim. You never make a deal with a handshake. And Curtis says, I make it, on my word as a Muslim man, and your son knows the witness, you're going to get paid this much. You never make a deal unless you're a Muslim with a Muslim. You got to make a contract. I found that out later, so I got paid like $140,000 for that fight. But it was actually good to do with interim. Like I said, I fight for money for my family, and for at the situation and time, it was for to doing my lawsuit, and that's all that mattered to me in the end. So, I mean, that's where it was, and that's what I did. So
So they did you a bit dirty. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And your thoughts on their fight coming up? You've been in the ring with both of them.
It'd be pretty interesting. I think Sonny Bill would have a lot more chance than people think he would against Gallen. But I think Gallen's tough. I just like I said, Flur's nephew goes out with Gallen's niece. And I'm like, and that end of the day, like I said, I love both guys, but for me, I'm going to go with Gallen on this one.
You're going to go with Gallen, okay?
Of course, because I don't like being cheated at any level.
Yep. Okay.
And from that camp they cheated me, so fuck them.
It's more of a what's the word that I'm looking for? It's more of the just gone blank for one second.
You're never gonna, bro.
That's what I'm looking for. The principle. It's more of a principle thing.
Bro,
that's what it is.
I'm never gonna respect someone that looks me in the eye and makes the deal on a handshake and doesn't honor their fucking word, even if he wasn't a Muslim. And as a man.
As a man, yep.
So.
A few questions that I've got. Some people want me to ask you.
Sure.
You've been a vocal advocate for fighter rights, fair play, and healthcare. What changes in combat sport? I know this is the whole case, but what changes specifically would you like to see across all combat sports? Obviously, equal pay, but what else?
Well, that's the antitrust lawsuit.
Yep.
That's why they're getting more antitrust lawsuit, because the equality is not 14%; it should be 50-50 at least.
Sure.
That they've done that side. I'm making it even on the steroid part of it, where equality, when I go into a fight, because they say they're the cleanest company, I expect you to be on the same playing field.
Uphold that standard.
And I expect the company that I work for to punish these guys that are doing cheating, to punish them, not allow them and encourage them. This is what I said before about the UFC title. It isn't worth the cow that died for it. Because, and look, it's just not worth it these days. These guys are just getting, for me, their contracts are slavery contracts. The belt isn't worth anything. It's rubbish.
The belt, okay.
The UFC belt, because the title is empty. There's no substance in that title, because what you're fighting for, what company you represent, the company that allows cheaters and say, look what they've done to me. They knew this guy was on stage, they allowed him to do it, and now they just try to put me out in the darkness. Every person that's gone against their same sort of monopoly or the way they run things, they've ostracized them. But this time, with this case, it'll change a lot of things. Like I said, it brings equality. And these guys that are doping and cheating, they get, they didn't punish them. They didn't punish these guys that are cheating.
And punish them how? What would you say?
Well, they have it in their contract. If you're caught doping, we can take away your money.
Okay.
What did they do with Brock Lesnar?
Nothing. I think he got a fine of 250 grand, but how much did he make that day?
Yeah, but they didn't take his money off him. In the contract that says we have the last right to take their money. And the guy there, and the guys like USADA that they find him, they're in collusion with UFC. So whatever they say is rubbish. So they left UFC because they tried to bring Conor McGregor back in. And like when I called that guy, Tiger, I called him and I said, bro, it doesn't matter whether you took a little bit of the bite of the pie or a big bite of the pie. You still bit the pie when you allowed Brock Lesnar to get away, gave him a exemption. Because how I know that is because I got the evidence. And when UFC tried to tell them to give Conor McGregor exemption, they said no. That's why I said to him, I don't care if you put a big pie or a little bit. You still bit the fucking pie. You're still part of this. That's why they left. They part ways. Despite when anyone says that's the truth, when I told him, I'm still suing the fuck out of you, little dog. That's what's up.
And then with the money that you get, what reform would you like? Would you implement and have your own drug testing agency and things like that? Would you look to do stuff like that? Or would you...
Well, that's not on me. That's not on me to do it. That's the companies that run these shows.
Of course.
These companies that run these shows, these guys like Dana White that run these competitions and try to take from the sport like everything else. He makes a competition like slap fighting and all it does is give people CTE.
It's true.
So when
that's
all those,
the stupidest sport I've
when
ever
all
seen.
those competitors in their sport end up with CTE and then they end up going, so who looks after them? What insurance will cover that shit? Who looks after them? We do. And who runs off with all the money? That clown. So shouldn't that clown be punished for making a show that fucking gives people CTE?
So what do you think is going to happen to him then?
He's going to jail.
You think so?
Because from the civil case, there's a RICO, there's a criminal case.
Okay, so there's a criminal case on top of the civil.
After a civil case, civil RICO case, comes a criminal case. And you, my friend, despite what all these people love me say, you, my friend Dana White, are going to jail. You're going with Vince McMahon, the trafficker. You're going to Brock Lesnar to jail. You're going with the rest of these, you know. And P Diddy's got the oil waiting for you, guys, the baby oil. He's going to fuck you real hard.
Fucking P Diddy's waiting in there, is he?
Fucking oath. 100. He's 100%. He's waiting for these guys, and you know, it doesn't matter what people say. You can laugh where you want to be. That's the bottom line here. That's from what I see on this table.
So, as I know, growing up, based on the past, say, 10, 15 years, there's a lot of corruption, especially within government.
Yep. Donald Trump can't help them.
But not even that. But we saw what happened with COVID and the jab and this bullshit that they were spreading with everything. It's not about Donald Trump trying to help them, but it's more like, would you be surprised if none of those people went to jail because of the money that they've got behind him and whatnot? So
how you know what? So you're saying that these people's money gonna buy these people off? Well, what happened to P Diddy? Did the people with more money threw him under the bus?
It's true.
So look what's going to happen here. The people with more money are going to throw Dana White under the bus. They did it to Diddy. He had plenty of money. I mean, what ties this unequivocally to Dana White, this case, this RICO, this approved civil RICO case, is the unjust enrichment. He made $600 million off the sale of UFC.
Of people on PEDs, essentially, and battery
He made $600 million from the sale of their company to TKO, to Ari Emanuel. I
didn't even know Ari Emanuel had all that money behind him, which is ridiculous.
He got a lot. He owns Endeavour, which 100. There's a lot of shit that people don't know, but that's, my friend, is that.
Because there's a lot of people that look up to you. They come from hardship like you do, and what kind of advice? Because I know you get asked all this all the time, but it's more so I want to know what you would give these people for advice to either get off the streets, get out of gangs, stop drugs, because you've essentially been through all of that. You had shit family environment. You were surrounded with gangs. You were fighting, on drugs, gambling habits, smoking. What more? Uneducated. Everything that you could think of. And now you're educated. You're educating yourself as you go.
Hang on. Run that back.
Please don't hit me. Right, let's start. And then
what are you trying to say? I'm dumb.
I'm gonna have CT after this conversation.